Good morning, students. I am Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, Associate Professor of Pathology. The last topic in cell injury chapter is subcellular alterations. So this is the overview of this today's class. First I will tell about the subcellular alterations, followed by mechanism of intracellular accumulations. And various accumulations it will occur inside our body. First I will tell about the accumulation of lipids, followed by proteins, as well as hyaline chains, followed by accumulation of glycogen, pigments. Last one is pathological calcification. So coming to this topic proper, that is subcellular alterations. So what is this subcellular alteration is? So if a cell is exposed to sublethal or any chronic stimuli, it will show some changes. So these changes are nothing but the subcellular alterations. That means the changes it will occur inside the cell in various organelles, and also it can manifest as metabolic derangements in the cell, or it can also show intracellular accumulations. For example, accumulation of proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, pigments, etc. So in excess amount it will be deposited. Last one is pathological calcification. So usually in our body, calcium it is seen in the bone and as well as in the teeth. So if calcium deposition is seen in other tissues, so it is called as pathological calcification. So next one is two types of intracellular accumulations it will be present in the body. So what are these two categories are? Normal cellular constituents like water, lipids and proteins and carbohydrates accumulated in excess. So this water, proteins, lipids and carbohydrates are normal in our body, but they are accumulated in excess inside the cell. So that is the first category. Second one is abnormal substances, and it can be either exogenous, that means coming outside from the body, like minerals or products of infectious agents, or endogenous materials, for example products of abnormal synthesis and metabolism. So these are the two categories: normal cellular constituents accumulated in excess. Second category is abnormal substances accumulated inside the cell. So various mechanisms are there to describe this mechanism of intracellular accumulations, but four are the main categories. So first one is here the endogenous substances, they are produced at a normal or increased rate, but the rate of metabolism is inadequate to ruminate. So that means because of this abnormal metabolism, these substances they are accumulated inside the cell. For example, see here, because of this defect in the metabolism, there will be accumulation of triglyceride in the hepatocyte. So this will lead to this fatty liver. Next one is, so because of this mutated genes, so this will lead to this production of these abnormal proteins. So if there is any abnormal protein is there in our body, usually it will be removed through this protein folding and transport. So if there is any defect in the protein folding and transport, these abnormal proteins they are not degraded. So there will be accumulation of these abnormal proteins inside the cell. Next one is conversion of complex substrates to soluble products requires enzymes. So if there is any lack of enzymes, so there will be accumulation of these complex substrates. For example, this type of accumulation of complex substrates it is seen in case of lysosomal storage disorders. Next one is final mechanism, fourth one. So here there will be accumulation of these exogenous substances inside the cell, because the cell neither has the enzymatic mechanism to remove it nor the ability to transport it to other sites. So that's why these exogenous substances they are accumulated inside the cell. For example, accumulation of these carbon particles in the macrophages of lung is the example of this type of accumulation. First I will tell about the accumulation of lipids. So the types of lipids which will accumulate inside the cells are triglycerides as well as cholesterol and cholesterol esters. So first I will tell about the accumulation of triglycerides. So accumulation of triglycerides within the parenchymal cells in an excess amount leads to fatty change. The other name of fatty change is steatosis, and it is principally seen in those organs which play an important role in fat metabolism. That is, this fatty change is commonly seen in liver, heart as well as kidney and muscle. Next one is causes of fatty liver. The most important cause is alcohol abuse, and the other non-alcoholic causes are diabetes, obesity, protein malnutrition, as well as hepatotoxins and anoxia. So before going to understand how these triglycerides will accumulate in the parenchymal cells, first we should know the fat metabolism in the liver. The free fatty acids from the adipose tissue or ingested food, they are transported to the hepatocytes. In the liver, they are esterified to triglycerides and also converted to cholesterol or phospholipids or oxidized to ketone bodies. Some fatty acids are synthesized from acetate as well. And the release of these triglycerides from the hepatocytes, it will require association with the apoprotein and it will form a lipoprotein. And in the form of lipoprotein, it's transported from the blood into the peripheral tissues. So what are the next one is how this triglyceride accumulation, it will occur in the liver. The causes are excess free fatty acid entry into the liver in case of starvation. The other causes are hypoxia. Because of lack of oxygen, it is not oxidized to ketone bodies. And also because of excess alcohol intake, there will be more action of this enzyme, that is alpha glycerophosphate. That's why more amount of fatty acids are converted into triglyceride because of this alcohol abuse. Next one is lack of apoprotein. In case of protein energy malnutrition, this apoprotein deficiency, it will be there. So that's why these triglycerides are not converted to these lipoproteins. So that's why this triglyceride accumulation, it will occur in the liver. So what are the causes of this excess accumulation of triglycerides? Are excess entry of free fatty acids into the liver in case of starvation and decreased free fatty acid oxidation in case of hypoxia. Next one is increased esterification of fatty acids to triglycerides as a result of this increased action of this enzyme alpha glycerophosphate in case of alcoholism. Next one is decreased apoprotein synthesis in case of protein malnutrition as well as carbon tetrachloride poisoning. Fatty liver is nothing but accumulation of triglycerides in the parenchymal cells of the hepatocytes. Next one is morphology of the involved organ in case of this fatty liver. So the liver, it is enlarged in size and it is greasy to touch and yellow in color. So microscopically in the initial stages, we can see small lipid droplets around the nucleus. So it's called as microvesicular steatosis. And later the small vacuoles, it will fuse and it will form a large vacuole and it will push the nucleus to one side. So it is called as macrovesicular steatosis. This is the microscopic picture of fatty liver. In the center we can see the portal triad and small lipid droplets are nothing but microvesicular steatosis. And later this will fuse and it will form a big vacuole. Here you can see this big vacuole, it's nothing but macrovesicular steatosis. Next one is fatty change in the heart. So what are the causes for this fatty change in the heart are? So it is seen in case of prolonged moderate hypoxia. So in this cause, usually this intracellular deposits of fat, it will create grossly apparent bands of yellowed myocardium and alternating with the bands of darker red brown and involved myocardium. That means alternate areas of involved myocardium with this fatty change, and alternatively we can see the uninvolved area also. So it will produce a tigered effect. And in case of severe hypoxia and also in other forms of myocarditis, uniformly affected myocytes, it will be there. So this is a picture of the cut section of the heart muscle showing this tigered effect. So alternative areas of yellow color area, it's nothing but involved with this fatty change. And here it is red in color because it is uninvolved. Alternative involved and uninvolved area, this will produce a tigered effect of the heart. Next is accumulation of cholesterol and cholesterol esters. Cholesterol is normally used for the synthesis of cell membranes without its accumulation. But cholesterol accumulation, it will occur in some instances, like for example in case of atherosclerosis, there will be accumulation of this cholesterol and cholesterol esters. It will be there in the lipid vacuoles and in the smooth muscle cells as well as in the intimal cells of the blood vessels, and also in cholesterolosis. It is nothing but accumulation of this cholesterol-filled macrophages in the lamina propria of gallbladder. In the adjacent picture, you can see these cholesterol-filled macrophages in the lamina propria of the gallbladder. Next one is xanthomas. It is nothing but cholesterol-filled foamy cells in the subepithelial connective tissues of the skin. Next one is protein accumulation. The protein accumulation, it will appear as rounded eosinophilic droplets or aggregates or masses in the cytoplasm. By electron microscopy, it is amorphous, fibrillar or crystalline in appearance. And usually they occur because of this excessive synthesis, absorption or defects in the cellular response. So examples where this protein accumulation is seen is in case of heavy proteinuria, these protein droplets are seen in the proximal convoluted tubules of kidney. Next one is Russell's bodies. So in plasma cells, usually the plasma cells play an important role in the active synthesis of immunoglobulins. So what are these Russell's bodies are? They are homogeneous eosinophilic inclusions and they are nothing but immunoglobulins within the distended cisternae of endoplasmic reticulum. Next one is defects in the protein foldings. So it can cause deposition of partially folded intermediates, for example in case of amyloidosis. This is the picture showing the protein droplets in the proximal convoluted tubules. So excess pink color, more pink color is there is because of this protein deposition, and you can appreciate the difference between this normal convoluted tubules. Next one is cytoskeleton protein accumulation. The cytoskeleton, it will consist of microtubules, thin actin filaments, thick myosin filaments and intermediate filaments. Intermediate filaments are again divided into keratin, vimentin, desmin, glial and neural filaments. And if there is any abnormalities there in the cytoskeletal proteins, so it is reflected by defects in the cell function, cell locomotion as well as intracellular organelle movement. And also in some instances, there will be accumulation of this fibrillar material. For example, in case of alcoholic liver disease, Mallory body it will be there and it is composed of keratin type of intermediate filament. And also in Alzheimer's disease, neurofibrillary tangles it will be there and it is composed of neuronal filaments. So this is the picture showing the Mallory body in alcoholic liver disease and it is composed of keratin type of intermediate filament. So next type of accumulation is hyaline change. So it refers to alteration within the cell or it can occur in the extracellular space also. So in routine HND sections, it will appear as homogeneous, glassy, pink appearance it will be there. And it is a descriptive histological term rather than any specific marker for cell injury. Intracellular accumulation of protein described earlier are examples of intracellular hyaline deposits. For example, in case of proteinuria, absorption of protein it will cause hyaline droplets in proximal epithelial cells of kidney. And the other example of intracellular hyaline is Russell's bodies in plasma cells as well as masses of altered alcoholic hyaline. Next one is extracellular hyaline change. So it will occur in the collagenous fibrous tissue of old scars and also in the walls of arteries of kidney in case of long-standing hypertension and diabetes. Here the loss of the arteries it will show hyaline change and it will result from the extravasated plasma protein as well as deposition of this basement membrane material. So these two are the examples of extracellular hyaline change. So the next type of intracellular accumulation is glycogen. Glycogen is a readily available energy source stored in the cytoplasm of healthy cells. Excess intracellular deposition of glycogen it is seen in case of glucose or glycogen metabolism abnormalities. And for example, it is seen in diabetes as well as in glycogen storage disorders. And this glycogen it will appear as clear vacuoles within the cytoplasm. To appreciate this glycogen, we have to do special stains like Best Carmine and PAS. So it will give rose to violet color to the glycogen. So next type of intracellular accumulation is pigments. Pigments are nothing but colored substances, some of which are normal constituents of the cell. For example, melanin. So it is normal constituent in our body. Whereas others, they are abnormal and it will accumulate only under special circumstances. And it is of two types, exogenous and endogenous pigments. First I will tell about this exogenous pigments. So first example is anthracosis. What is this anthracosis? Nothing but in accumulation of carbon in the macrophages of lungs as well as lymph nodes because of air pollution is called as anthracosis. So next one is tattooing. Tattooing, it is a form of localized exogenous pigmentation. Here the injected pigment is taken up by the macrophages and it will persist forever in the cells as well as in the extracellular space. Next is endogenous pigments. First I'll tell about is lipofuxin. So other names of lipofuxin are lipochrome, wear and tear and aging pigments. So it is composed of polymers of lipids and phospholipids complexed with proteins. And how it is derived? It is derived through the lipid peroxidation of polyunsaturated lipids of subcellular membranes. And if it is present, it indicates a sign of free radical injury. And this lipofuxin, it is derived from a Latin word. Fuscus means brown. And it will appear as yellow-brown, finely granular intracytoplasmic pigment. And surrounding this nucleus, it will be present. Surrounding the nucleus and within the cytoplasm, this is the location of lipofuxin pigment, and it is prominent in the liver and heart of aging patients as well as in malnutrition patients and as well as in cancer cachexia patients. So this is the first one is the HND picture showing the lipofuxin pigment. The brown color pigment is lipofuxin. Next one is this is the electron microscopy picture showing the lipofuxin pigment. And it is seen surrounding the nucleus, perinuclear location of this lipofuxin pigment. Next one is other example of this endogenous pigment is melanin, and it is derived from a Greek word. Melas means black, and this melanin, it is an endogenous non-hemoglobin derived brown black pigment, and it is formed when the enzyme tyrosinase catalyzes the oxidation of tyrosine to dihydroxyphenylalanine in melanocytes. And other example of this black pigment which is deposited in our body is homogenistic acid, and it is deposited in a rare metabolic disease called as alkaptonuria. So in this disease, this black pigment is deposited in the skin connective tissue as well as in the cartilage. So it is the condition, it is called as ochronosis. Next one is the other example of endogenous pigment is hemosiderin. Hemosiderin, it is a hemoglobin derived endogenous pigment, and it is golden yellow to brown in color, and it is granular, and it is composed of aggregates of ferritin micelles. And this intracellular accumulation of this hemosiderin can occur as a localized process or as a systemic dearrangement. First is local hemosiderin deposition, and it will result from gross hemorrhage or because of this rupture of small vessels because of this vascular congestion. And the released hemoglobin is taken up by the macrophages and the lysosomal enzymes. It will convert it into hemosiderin, a ferritin containing pigment. So next one is systemic hemosiderin deposition, that it's also called as hemosiderosis. So it is seen in case of increased absorption of dietary iron, for example in case of hemochromatosis, and also in hemolytic anemias. In hemolytic anemias there will be destruction of RBC, so that's why the iron is released from these RBCs, and also because of this excess transfusion thereby leading to the exogenous overload of iron. This is a HND picture showing the hemosiderin. It is golden brown color and fine granular pigment. So this is a special stain for hemosiderin, Prussian blue stain. So in this stain it will appear as blue in color. The last one in the subcellular alteration is pathological calcification, and it's an important question. Several times they have been asked in exams. So what is this pathological calcification? It's nothing but it's an abnormal tissue deposition of calcium salts. So usually in our body calcium it is seen in the bone as well as in the teeth. So if this calcium is deposited in other tissues, for example other than bone and teeth, it is called as pathological calcification, and it is of two types: dystrophic calcification, metastatic calcification. First is dystrophic calcification. It will occur in dead and dying tissues. Dystrophic, it will start with D, and dead tissues, the starting letter, it is also D. That's why easily we can remember dystrophic calcification, it is seen in dead tissues. And here the calcium levels in our body, they are normal. And it is seen in case of necrosis like coagulative necrosis, liquefactive necrosis, as well as in caseous necrosis, and also in arteries in case of atherosclerosis, and also in damaged heart valves. And the calcium can be either intracellular or extracellular in location. or sometimes in both intracellular or extracellular. This is the picture showing the dystrophic calcification in aortic wall. The aortic wall, it is stenosed, and it is because of this piled up the dystrophic calcification behind each cusp. And macroscopically, the calcification, it is white, fine, granular, and also clumpy in appearance, and consistency is gritty. Microscopically, it is basophilic, amorphous, and granular. Sometimes clumped appearance it will be there. So usually in the HND section it is basophilic, it is blue in color, and sometimes heterotopic bone formation can also occur in the focus of dystrophic calcification. Next one is metastatic calcification. This metastatic calcification, here calcium deposition it is seen in the vital tissues, and here the calcium levels are elevated. So usually in our body there will be hypercalcemia. So what are the causes of hypercalcemia? So it is seen in case of increased secretion of parathyroid hormone, for example in case of parathyroid tumors, and also ectopic secretion of parathyroid hormone in case of malignant tumors, and also destruction of bone tissue, for example in case of multiple myeloma, Paget's disease, and also in diffuse skeletal metastasis. Next one is vitamin D related disorders like vitamin D intoxication, as well as idiopathic hypercalcemia of infancy. So next one is renal failure. Renal failure, it will cause retention of phosphate, thereby leading to this secondary hyperparathyroidism. Next one is sites of metastatic calcification. So usually this metastatic calcification, it will occur throughout our body, but mainly it is seen in the interstitial tissue of gastric mucosa, kidneys, lungs, as well as systemic arteries and pulmonary veins. That is about the subcellular alterations. With this, the cell injury topic, it is completed. Thank you.